Lincoln, California. Some people call it a gem. Some people call it boring. Some people move here and just never leave. And some, well, they last just about as long as a New Year's gym membership. So today, I'm breaking down the real pros and cons of living here in Lincoln, California. No fluff, no builder brochures type advertising, no false promises of how everything is perfect here. Could Lincoln be the answer for you? Let's find out. And make sure you stick around, because one of the great perks about living here in Lincoln, California may literally save you thousands of dollars. Let's get into it. Let's start with the reason why Lincoln shows up on literally everybody's radar. That's going to be affordability. And yeah, I know, using the word affordability and California in the same sentence ought to, honestly be illegal. But compared to, San Diego or Los Angeles or the Bay Area, or even my friends out there in Manhattan, paying a king's ransom for a shoebox apartment, Lincoln is extremely affordable. Most single-family homes really land in a price range that, actual humans can still wrap their heads around. Condos and smaller homes and fixer-uppers, start in the low 300s. And then your mid-range single-family homes, they start around the mid-400s, about $450K or so. There's also newer construction, driveways, two-car garages, real yards, and quiet streets. Unlike the Bay or SoCal or New York, where you would basically get a tool shed with character that comes with emotional damage. A lot of our relocation clients, when they see what you can actually get here, they're thinking like, wait, really? I can afford this here? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. Now, if this is your first time on the channel and you're wondering, like, who is this guy? Well, I'm Reese, real estate broker here in Northern California, and I've lived in this greater Sacramento area my entire life. I help people relocate here to Northern California from all over the country. New York, Texas, Washington, Florida, the Midwest, you name it. If you've ever Googled, where can I afford a nice home in California without actually selling a kidney? Well, you're my kind of people. Today we're talking about Lincoln, California, a fast-growing city that's about 30 minutes north of Sacramento, and it really just surprises a lot of buyers. We're going to go through the good and the bad, like the stuff that they don't actually put on Zillow, and whether this place actually makes sense for you. And if you already have some questions, all the contact information is down below in the description. Don't hesitate to reach out. It's never too soon. And make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss out on any future videos. Let's go ahead and dive in. Now, as I said earlier, Lincoln is quite affordable. But now let's talk about the toll that we have to pay for that affordability. And that's the commute. Now, if you're going to work in Sacramento or very close by Roseville or Rockland, the commute is, it's fairly manageable. In fact, let's pull up Google Maps here and take a look. So you can, from Lincoln, you can jump right on Highway 65 here. And if need be, you connect to 80 if you're going to go past like Roseville and Rockland. You get all the way into Sac. All the way into Sac, you're looking at, maybe 30 to 35 minutes. 35 to 45 minutes during rush hour traffic. So not a terrible commute, but not fantastic either. And, for military or military contractors, as you can see, we zoom out a little bit. Lincoln is only about 20 to 30 minutes commute to Beale Air Force Base. So not too bad there. But if you work in the Bay Area, we need to have a respectful but honest conversation. As we zoom out here, you can see that commute can turn, really into a part-time job with benefits that include back pain and podcast addictions. We're literally talking about 2 hours or more, depending on traffic, and that's up to 80. Now people do it. They've been doing it for decades, and that's because, here in Lincoln and the surrounding areas, you can get 3 times the house for a third of the price. But the reality is that Lincoln is not like a walk to work kind of city. It is suburban life. Most residents drive a lot. So if you dream of, hopping on a subway with a latte and your emotional support croissant, this ain't it. But what you give up in commute, you actually really gain in comfort. Life has a way of balancing out, right? Lincoln is loaded with newer neighborhoods. Translation, you got open floor plans, high ceilings, energy efficient builds, walk-in closets, and kitchens that don't look like they just survived the Nixon administration. The common reaction from East Coast buyers when they walk into a newer home in Lincoln is like, why is everything so clean? It's because these homes were built after dial-up internet died. These are master plan communities here in Lincoln. What that means for you is, parks and walking trails and playgrounds and quiet streets that look like they were designed with the thought of humans actually living there. And again, they are affordable all the way up to those really luxury type homes as well. New builds range all the way from the low to mid 400s all the way up to the 1.2 million plus for really luxury type homes on bigger lots with all the bells and whistles. Now there is a small monthly plot twist here. I promise to be honest with you. And that plot twist is HOA fees and Mello. Not everywhere, but a lot of the newer communities often have. Sometimes HOAs are as little as $80 or $150 plus, something like that. And some of the things that you're getting for your money for your HOA fees is going to be like parks and landscaping, maybe security, or that community pool that you swear you're going to use someday. And then there's the Mello fees. Mello are basically a special tax that's tied to community facilities districts. And these fees fund things like roads and parks and utilities and other public services for new and growing communities. And these fees can run $100 to $200 a month, sometimes more, added onto your tax bill. HOAs and Mello fees, they're not evil, it's just math. And math always collects the money. But remember, it's not all neighborhoods, but some for sure. And even though these are additional fees that you pay, they often do come with some really good value that a lot of people are willing to pay for. But on the other hand, a lot of our clients that come to us express that they want to be in a neighborhood that has no HOAs and no Mello. So we often help people find just that. Now, Lincoln was, really built for everybody. We got, retirees and single people and families, but families really do seem to love it. It's like this city was, built for strollers and soccer practices and school drop-offs and like garage fridges full of, questionable leftovers, and maybe for dads, those garage beers, right? But seriously, the schools are solid and the parks are amazing and the streets are quiet. It's the kind of place that even in this, techno computerized video game age, there's still kids out playing and riding bikes and hanging out in the outdoors. And because it's the suburbs and the streets are so quiet, parents, you can actually sleep at night. So for a lot of people relocating here to Northern California, with kids, Lincoln kind of, goes right to the top of the list. But good and bad, right? And if you're single and your hobbies include, craft cocktails at 11 p.m., live DJs, and, restaurants that don't even open until after 11 p.m., well, Lincoln might feel a little sleepy. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some great local restaurants and some breweries and some really cool spots. But Lincoln is not Midtown Sacramento and it's not downtown. But there are folks that live in Lincoln that really want that kind of action, so they venture on down to hop, skip, and a jump away to historic old Roseville as like a nice little strip. And then of course downtown Sacramento, Midtown Sacramento, where you can find all of that kind of crazy nightlife action. But Lincoln, after 9 p.m. it tucks itself in and sets the alarm. All right, now really quickly, let's talk about my favorite pro or perk of living in Lincoln or Northern California. If you're what I call a local hero, we're talking, teachers and educators and nurses and paramedics and police and fire and, doctors and, military, retired and active, well, to me, you are a local hero. And just for you, I've created this Local Heroes program. And this program can actually have a fairly significant impact for you. If you fit the category of a local hero and you buy or sell a home or both with me here in Lincoln or any of the surrounding areas or anywhere in Northern California for that matter, I'm going to credit you a portion of my gross commission towards your closing costs. This is real money. We're not talking gift cards and Starbucks points. This is actual cash that comes right off the top of your cash to close. And the really cool part, it's 10% of our gross commission. And the typical recipient, it's somewhere around $1,500 to $3,000. And the cool part, there's no cap on that dollar amount. It scales with your purchase price. You can use this money for window coverings or upgraded appliances or furniture or whatever you want for that matter. Just my way of, giving a little something back to you guys that really keeps society running with all that you sacrifice to do your jobs and your dedication. I just want to let you know that, or I want to let you know that I appreciate you. And of course, with all programs, there's some small restrictions that apply. So, when you book your call with me, link is down in the description. Make sure you let me know that you qualify for the Local Heroes program. That way we can discuss exactly what kind of impact this can make on you during our call. Now, let's address the flaming elephant that's in the room, and that's going to be summer heat. Lincoln, like much of Northern California, gets pretty hot. Like, why is the sun personally attacking me kind of hot? In the summertime, we'll usually have a couple of weeks of, 100 to 110 degree weather. And, like I said, that's pretty hot. You will learn to love things like air conditioning, popsicles, swimming pools, and, you'll learn to park in the shade like it's a competitive sport. The good news, though, the silver lining in the heat, there's no humidity, right? So even though it's hot, you're not sweating through your shirt before you get to your office every morning. There's also no hurricanes, and in the winter, you don't have to worry about shoveling snow. It's just that summer dry heat. Now, quick side note, if you're thinking about moving here to Lincoln or anywhere in Northern California, all my contact information is down there in the description. Book some time on my calendar. We'll have a quick conversation. No pressure, no sales pitch, just a real conversation to see if, Lincoln or Northern California makes sense for you. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit like and smash that subscribe button. All right, let's get back to it. Now, here's where Lincoln, quietly flexes. You're really close to Sacramento, the capital city. You're right next door to Rockland and Roseville. Just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Folsom. Really close by Folsom Lake, and access to the American River Parkway and the Sacramento River for some outdoor fun, which is really big when you're living in Northern California where it does get hot. But you're also centrally located, amongst like Lake Tahoe and Napa and the Bay Area and the mountains, and just a little bit further and you're at the coast. Weekends become dangerous, but in a really good way. You can go snowboarding in the morning and then hit a winery in the afternoon. That's not marketing, that's just literally geography. You're within all these places, within just a couple hours drive. Now we're back to, maybe another negative. That's going to be growth. Growth has consequences. Lincoln is growing fast, and that brings more houses and more people and, more traffic. Some people love it and others really miss that small town vibe. But that's kind of the price that you pay for popularity. And, it still is a pretty quiet town because mostly suburbs. Now, here's the part that's it's really tough to, quantify as a buyer. And that's going to be, safety and community. In Lincoln, you got neighbors that wave and, kids are running around and playing outside. And, people know, they remember your dog's name. And that kind of stuff matters, especially if you're coming from like a dense city. Okay, so that brings us to another small negative. Living here in Lincoln and and a lot of Northern California, you're gonna need a car. Most families have 1 or 2 cars. So if you're coming from like a really dense city or living on the grid, that may take some getting used to. Public transit is very limited. It exists, but you can't really rely on it. This is suburban life. It's not subway life. But if I had my choice, I'd much rather have to own a car to come and go as I please rather than, being sandwiched in like a sardine on the subway to get to and fro to work every day or just to do, even the most mundane tasks. All right, so we got one more pro here for you, and this is kind of a big one for, those long-term thinkers, and that's appreciation. Lincoln has been steadily growing in value as people flee like that big city lifestyle and they build a lot of new construction and they keep redeveloping the infrastructure. And all that growth just, brings a lot of popularity and better schools and parks and all this stuff, which really stabilizes and helps values grow. And all those relocations, that drives demand, and demand drives price. Simple economics, but powerful. So that's it. No place is perfect. Everyone's got some good and some bad. But based on what you see, is Lincoln right for you? Are you ready to stop scrolling and start dreaming? Let's make it happen. My calendar link is down there in the description. No pressure, no sales pitch, just a real conversation to help you figure out if Lincoln or anywhere in Northern California makes sense for you. And if you haven't already, make sure you smash that like button and follow the channel. That way you don't miss out on any future updates and videos. And we'll see you on the next one. That's a wrap.